Thank you very much. We have a context for this discussion is the Palestinian hunger strike, and two of the speakers are directly related to it, but I wish to emphasize that my message is about hunger strike in general. We have had in the past hunger strike on the extreme right, the Uzi Mishulam sect 20 years ago, and hunger strikes may erupt from the mitnachalim, the settler side, whoever knows. So the position I wish to advocate regarding hunger strike has nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or with any particular political question. Rather, I argue that in most cases of political hunger strikers, physicians have the duty to save the life of the strikers, even by means of force feeding if this is necessary. And when this statement is made clear and loud in advance, much in advance, and physicians stick to it, then it would be easier for us to dissociate it from the particular context. And in one day Palestinian strike or settler strike, or perhaps the government changes its mind and goes to the prisoner physician and telling, well, we have had this discussion with the Shabak, it's better for the state of Israel that they die and starve to death. Don't make the extra effort to feed them or convince them to feed. The physicians would oppose this kind of request as well. There's not much time for a comprehensive argument. I wish to target two false presumptions in the background of this discussion. One, the presumption that hunger strike is a non-violent means of struggle. It's associated mainly with Gandhi. Gandhi he invented the doctrine of non-violent struggle. He has conducted hunger strikes, but he never considered hunger strike as non-violent means, and he never hunger stroke to the point of serious risk damage. At any rate, even if Gandhi thought it was a non-violent means, I would argue with Gandhi as well, because any action that kills or harms health is violent. It is true that hunger strike is not violence directed against others, but self-violence is still a kind of violence. This is a simple philosophical argument. It is self-violence. Second, it comes from we find it in the Declaration of Malta by the World Medical Association that forced feeding is a kind of torture, degrading and inhuman treatment. Something that I also find unacceptable, which means that even if we reject force feeding and we think it's immoral and unethical in certain circumstances, it might be so, it might be an error, it would not constitute torture, which is such a taboo. There's the strongest taboo in humanitarian international law is torture. There's no permission whatsoever to commit torture. And I think that the association of force feeding, force feeding by doctors who act with a sincere intention of saving life, not as a means to manipulate prisoners or humiliate them or break them, is very dangerous, because we are going to start and erode the taboo on torture when we label non-torture acts, even if wrong, as torture. Now I wish to read you from the UN Convention Against Torture. There's a definition. It says that torture is an act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person. So force feeding is not pain intentionally inflicted. The pain is a side effect. For such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or is suspected of having committed, or intimidating or coercing him or a third person for any reason based on discrimination of any kind. This is the definition of torture. Now, when physicians care about the life of prisoners, and I think they should care, and act sincerely out of commitment to their health and dignity, they might be mistaken. Like when physicians connect terminal patients to respirator machines when they don't want to. It's against Israeli law, it's unethical, it inflicts pain. It is not yet torture. And what I'm afraid is that the association of torture will harm our sensitivity to this issue, and it also self-defeat the medical profession when it says, they did not say exactly torture, they say degrading and inhuman treatment. And we have the Ireland versus UK ruling, the European Court of Human Rights, which distinguishes between the two. It's now established in international law that not every degrading and inhumane treatment is torture. But still, the Israeli Medical Association uses this expression that force feeding is like torture. But what is degrading and inhumane treatment? Well, originally it comes from the Bill of Rights, cruel and unusual punishment. Has to do with the famous case of Titus Oates being whipped publicly and set to the pillory for perjury. He committed offenses. So I don't think there's any similarity whatsoever between hunger strikers and who are being forcibly fed to save their lives, like many other suicidal and problematic, let's call it these patients that receive treatment against their wish, or at least against their wish at the moment of treatment, than a cruel and unusual punishment. And in the ruling in 1976, the prisoners were under interrogation, they were held blindfolded for many hours standing, practices that has nothing to do with the promotion of the health of the prisoners. Now, do I have 2 more minutes? I don't follow the time. What is the time?
1 more minute.
1 more minute. So, the ABC of medical involvement in war, in fighting, is to eliminate, it's the principle of humanity, to reduce and hedge suffering, cruelty, and degrading of human dignity. Now, if doctors are not involved at all, if they are hunger strikers and my colleague to my left goes away, it's one thing, doctors are not involved. But when doctors are involved and can only talk to prisoners, but not treat them against their will, doctors become instrument in this theater of cruelty in which prisoners, with a good reason or without a good reason, inflict upon their lives, themselves, degrade the practice. There is no evidence-based body of knowledge about plenty of judgments doctors make, whether the 55th day of strike the patient is in this risk or that risk, or this level of lucidity or that level of lucidity. And as I said in a previous session, then once we let prisoners die of hunger striking, we'll get used to it. Then they will start eating feces. There was the dirty strike in Ireland. That was almost what they did. They would pluck the eyes out. And if there's no limit set on the possibility of cruelty in warfare, even self-cruelty, we are going back to the days before the Geneva Convention, even before the first laws of proper human conduct were set, maybe in the times of the Greeks. That's it.